and we'll go over the application strategy, the what's new, and then finally Anu will go over sample essays. I think that's the best part of the application. Mine is mostly the hustling I've done with several students over the years. Year over year, we bring in every year, I think about 7 or 8 of our students go to Cosmos. And Cosmos is not the only program. There are several others you can apply to. Cosmos does become the linchpin and the starting point for all college applications, or summer program applications. So it's a great way to get the year started for everybody. As I said, Cosmos is wonderful, and it's the top of the line for California students. We deal with a lot of students outside of California and within California who do not get into Cosmos. So these are some additional programs that you could consider going to. Keep that in mind because you will need backup options. Cosmos should be a program you should apply every year. Starting, you can actually apply. I realized just earlier today that even rising 8th graders, so 7th graders who are closing out, can actually apply for Cosmos too. I always thought it was 8th grade and to 11th grade, but it's a great way to learn about the clusters, about what technology is about. But yeah, these are some of the other programs you could consider. I had one more link. I had a link here. And I'm going to put this link in the chat for everyone to look at. And keep asking questions, guys, throughout the session. Anu will be moderating, and so will be Kavita moderating the discussion. So if there are specific questions you need me to answer along the way, we'll take it. Now, this link will take you to this page where last year when I did my presentation to the team, one of my blogs talks in details about that. A program I did with a podcast I did or a Zoom session just earlier this year on different summer program applications using Cosmos as a case study could also be looked at. And then just crafting compelling Cosmos use cases. I think this is from 3 years ago, this blog. So take a look at it. I look a lot different that time.
We have a question already, Harpal. What grade is best suited and recommended for Cosmos?
It's a good question. I prefer students to start applying from the time you can get in. But if you look at most clusters, I know they tend to be more designed for 9th and 10th graders. So the maximum punchline or the punch is in 10th and 11th. 11th tends to, you don't want to be applying for the first time in the 11th because the chance of getting in are a lot lesser. However, if you missed the board before, then do apply for it. But you could start applying, like I said, as a 7th grader. It is overwhelming, but it is whether the industry is moving. So 9th, 10th, definitely a sweet spot. Try to get in sooner. Okay. And like I said, many of these programs don't take 7th, 8th graders. Most of the good programs, Johns Hopkins does take 9th graders too. Santa Barbara is, I think, age group is 16. SIP is 16. So ATDP does take younger students. So you should consider that. And BeaverWorks will take 9th graders too. So there are some programs, but Cosmos seems to be leading the pack with applications. So let's talk about what the profile of a student needs to be when you're applying to UC Cosmos. And this goes mostly, Cosmos is obviously oversubscribed close to 10 times. So their acceptance rate till about 3 years ago, what used to be in the 15 to 18% ranges, as this program has become more popular, it's come down to in the 10 or 12% ranges. Now that is again average. So for the very competitive clusters, the ones which have very little prerequisites and sound fairly generic and cool, the acceptance rates is even lower. So there's a whole method to the madness to finding or how to go about it. But fundamentally, colleges and Cosmos are looking for the same thing. Good summer programs and good colleges are looking at a crystal ball and saying, will this student be an asset to the class now? And will he or she be able to use this knowledge and grow further in their career? And GPA is a very important part of it, but it's not the only thing. They are looking to build a holistic cohort. They are looking to build a classroom where students can lean in on each other. They are looking for authenticity, and the authenticity comes from your essays. Some of the activities you can talk about in Cosmos. Intellectual curiosity can take multiple fronts, not just challenging coursework, but what you learn from the coursework. Character comes from your how you explain yourself in your personal essay, or from the teacher recommendation, which will be a kingmaker. So if you haven't started recommendations for Cosmos, I would suggest you start doing that now, because the deadline for the recommendations is on the day of the application. So you can't just have your application in and be done unless your teacher or your teachers, two of your teachers have not, at least if one of the teachers has not sent in the recommendations, you'll be okay with one recommendation, but they will not consider anything after the deadline. Okay. So the value prop that Success Coach provides to its students, because of which we have had a good hit rate in Cosmos, is mostly the ability to help these students who apply to find their X factor. X factor can be with academics if you are struggling with some academics or doubling down on an academic that you're good at. It can be by helping you apply to STEM competitions. Could be Olympiads, computer science, physics, bio, chemistry Olympiads, or helping you apply to the right set of summer programs. Like most of our students will apply to 4 or 5 programs every year. Guided research. So one of your activities you could talk about is some kind of research you have done in the past. And Success Coach mentors, because we have from MIT, John Hopkins, Harvard, we have amazing mentors in the fields of pre-med, engineering, computational biology, all of those. These 3 factors together, the prep process, what happened here? The prep process, the competitive tutoring, the X factor, and the guided research. These 3 are the kingpins or the reasons why our students get in really well into some of these summer programs. Now, university admissions planning, early planning is a given. It's a table stakes. Most of us have that figured out well in the industry. Okay? But applying those principles of early planning, having your reach target safety, even in terms of summer programs you're going to apply for, helping you apply for not just summer programs, but institutes or summer institutes, which Success Coach runs of its own, become useful. So please check out our website. You can see more details there. Okay. This is something which last night one of the parents was asking us. We usually don't take students who are Success Coach students. We don't mentor students outside, but last night a parent was insisting that they need some help with Cosmos alone. They don't want to sign up for multi-year plans for college admissions counseling. So I kind of came up with this product, which is 6 hours of focused review with somebody like Anu, who's pretty much an authority now on the work that we do. But reviewing your essays, getting the activity spike, the brag sheet that you need. So we'll be covering most of that today. So it's not, you don't have to come for something like this, but if you need help, we are here for you. So now let's talk about the application strategy. And Anu, any questions so far or anything that I have talked about?
No, but we have a few asks, regarding the area that you covered. Like one parent has asked that, their daughter has already done SIP, and would you recommend doing Cosmos again, given that she has already done SIP and she's focusing on computer science major?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. SIP covers a very different side of research, which is a much longer program. SIP will absolutely help you. And if one of the SIP professors are going to give you a recommendation, go for it. Cosmos is a once in a lifetime opportunity. SIP or Santa Barbara or Gati, UCI Gati, they're all good, but the quality of the learning you'll get at Cosmos is unparalleled. Anything else?
Okay. Expected GPA for getting admitted to Cosmos, and what are the best summer programs for current 11th graders?
3.8 GPA. I was listening to the UC Santa Cruz, San Diego guys talking just a couple of days back. Even though the website says 3.5, San Diego was openly saying we will not look at, or not saying that, but they said recommended as 3.8 and over, unless you're a over performer with something else, which I can't understand what it'll be, given professors are looking at the application. Anything else?
Can the recommendation come from an 8th grade teacher for a current student in 9th grade?
Yes.
And the
As long as
deadline
it's
is February 7th. Somebody had asked for the deadline. I think it's February 7th from the top of my mind. That's it.
And just make sure that teacher does not have a Gmail account. Has to be some kind of a edu email address. Make sure they use their work email address wherever they're teaching. So this year, what's changed? Or we still have 5 campuses. There was a chance they were going to add Merced to the list. Did not get added. You can only apply to 1 campus and 2 clusters. Now, some of this I'm going to just go quickly over because we have a lot of new content to talk about, but listen to some of my prior blogs on YouTube or the link I sent you earlier, and you can listen to the videos we did 2 years ago, which are still very relevant, okay? Like I said, 7th graders can also apply. That's new in what I learned. The people who they're looking for are, if you look at this, high-level teaching and learning, people who want to go into a teaching and academia and learning. It's all about a growth mindset. Intellectual curiosity is important. So even in your personal essays, talk about experimentation, analytical thinking. I mean, they're giving it to you on a platter, what they're looking for. So please don't talk about, I had a broken foot and I fixed it over time and how that changed my way of thinking. Just talk about, I mean, don't talk about the regular cliches about Boy Scouts or trip to Botswana and what you learned over there. Don't do that stuff. The people who are reading your application are going to be mostly professors and faculty. Okay? So they want to hear these words. Even though Cosmos GPA 3.5 plus, 3.8 is what they say. And they want to know if you've done any prior research. And doesn't have to be research like published research, but if you've done some work, which is kind of the work with Success Koach makes your students do, genuine research, not just on paper research. They want to see that. There is no cluster or there's no campus which is more desirable. They're all amazing. The acceptance rates at Irvine and Santa Cruz are a little higher, or higher, and that's because not as many people go here. Okay, but lower acceptance rates, mostly San Diego and Davis, are because of the proximity and some of the subjects they teach, but nothing really earth-shattering about that. I use this slide typically for college admissions. So you can see kind of the 6, I took away 2 of these, so SAT, ACT, and extracurriculars. But Cosmos is really looking for this. They're looking for your GPA, and they're looking for essays which connect to those GPA, how you went about with things. Your recommendations will be a huge player. In fact, this green should be more like 20%. Extracurriculars will matter, but as long as those are STEM research related. Do not talk about extracurriculars that are not related to research or to STEM. At the end of the day, this is what an admissions officer is looking for. When they finish reading your application, the essays, the transcripts, and how you showcase, demonstrate interest, how do you make me feel? Did you showcase reflection and growth? And Anu will talk through most of this in her part of the presentation. You can talk about one STEM activity and something else, but as long as it communicates to the STEM perspective and choice of activities, Make sure you are showing a spike. When I mean a spike, meaning mixed it. An activity list should not just say what you did, or it should talk about what you learned, and something quantitative should be there. And we talk about that in our prior slides or podcasts, but in details. But make sure you submit at least both of these. Don't just limit to one activity. Talk about two. And even if you've not done a whole lot of research, even if you've done something, make sure you talk about that. Your recommendations should, even though they say one should be from a STEM teacher, don't make the mistake of making the second one from a gym coach or a pastor at your church. Don't do that. Make sure you have academic teachers talking about you. If you've not sent them a recommendation so far, this meeting is getting recorded. Get off this call and just send them that email, or go and put them in the references section of Cosmos. The moment you put them in and the email address, they will get a note saying you have been chosen as a recommender by the student. Please do that right away, because that's number one reason people don't finish their applications is the recommendation does not make it in time because the teacher didn't have the time. And if you reach out to them a week before Cosmos is due, you might as well not apply. Your references should talk about how you did in the classroom, about how the struggle and overcame might be cliche, but collaboration, grit, showcasing towards research when he failed or he or she failed, how they turned it around. Those are things you want to make sure in your brag sheet, which you will send to your teachers. Like, don't just tell them, "Okay, please give me a recommendation." Send them something reminding them of the work you and she have done before. This is a Cosmos reference form. So when you put in the email address of a recommender, this is kind of what they get, this form, where they fill up these details about you. I mean, these are radio buttons, so it's just a choice, but there are two parts of it where the teacher will write like the subjects they taught to the student and additional comments you feel which are relevant to this candidate application, 200-word limit. So if you could write something to this teacher, thanking them about the work they've done, or where you had some aha moment learning something in a particular project, or how you felt good about helping some others, you're kind of making sure that this teacher will take parts of what you gave as input and create their own letter from there. The personal essay, don't make it a kitchen sink. Don't write, please don't write words like, "This is why I'm applying to Cosmos," or my Cosmos has been my dream. They don't want to hear that. It's kind of a topic you would discuss with somebody over a blind date. You're meeting somebody for 3-4 minutes, and what would you talk to them about your life? Which does not sound like a flex, does not sound like a resume, but tells them something which leaves a mark of intellectual curiosity. Somebody who might want to become your roommate, or somebody who might want to become your classmate. That's the focus you're looking for. So these are just some teasers, and Anu will go into more details. Now, cluster reviews it's just some notes I made yesterday about what you want to make sure. When they say preferred skills, they almost mean that it's needed. Like, you can't, even though they're saying preferred, the classroom that's going to apply to that particular cohort is going to have those skills. So make sure you have those skills. Don't just fall for preferred as like, well, if I don't have it, they just have for preferred. Such a competitive program, you want to make sure that happens, that you have the skills. If they've asked for entry-level skills and you have too many skills, please don't show off and talk about how great your skills are, because they are going to take it as a flex. They will actually take it as you have not adhered to instructions. And if there's one thing that pisses academia off, is when you try to sound like a smartass. You don't want to sound like that. You want to sound very humble and following instructions that they've asked for. Don't send emails to professors even though their email addresses are listed there. Those are listed not for you to send emails saying, hey, I thought I'll just make friends with you. I found your work interesting. Don't do that. That's going to get you in trouble. It's definitely not going to go well with the professor. If you have specific questions about the program, send it to that generic email address. Even if you have a question about a prerequisite, send it to the generic email address. They have interns and students working for them who will answer those. If those things they think that's a need that needs to be addressed by the professor, those people will reach out. Okay. We'll go over some of these. I'm really over time now. My apologies. I need to give it over to Anu now. But, clusters with less prerequisites will be a lot more competitive. So look for boring clusters, and clusters that don't sound as interesting will be an interesting way to think in a reverse strategy, reverse psychology. Choice one clusters will attract less applicants. So if that is an area like I saw on math, my cluster was a choice one cluster, go for that. Applying to related clusters matters. So if you're applying to two different clusters and are totally different, that does send the wrong message. So you can be a repeat applicant. And if you really like what you're applying for, talk about how you improved in the last 1 year. You can be assured that professors who are reading the application, even if you write a line like, this is the second year I'm applying to this cohort, this is why I loved it last year, this is why I love it even more, that's going to go very well. This is also to the question earlier Anu asked, which is a good year to apply. Choose a strategy which is going to be and stay consistent with it over the years. Clusters that have come in this year, and I think these have gone away from San Diego. New ones that have come in from Davis is here, one new one, and then UCLA actually added 2 more this year. So UCLA, we had 2 students last year that went to UCLA, and they did some of the other ones, and they really liked it. So I have I've taken all the clusters and broken them down into by prereqs. Your goal should be as a 7th, 8th grader only to apply, like I've put in, I'm going to highlight this a little bigger. But clusters, like UCLA only has 1 program, which I could find for the younger students. Irvine also has just 1 program. So maybe not the best ones to apply for. Santa Cruz and San Diego had good ones. These particular cluster 5, 6, 7, and 10, and then 1, 2, and 9, which are good ones for 8th graders to apply. And I was just purely looking at the prerequisites and looking at the details. Some obviously are requiring computer science programming. Maybe some of you have not done Algebra 2. If you've not done it, then don't apply for it. But this is kind of just a high level. And if you meet with me later, I'm happy to go over. And this is what we do with every one of our students. We go through the structured refinement process to say which one to apply for. 9th graders, as I was talking earlier, there's a lot of good programs, but they are expecting you to have done Integrated Math 2 or Algebra 2. So most high achieving students who apply to Cosmos are at Algebra 2 level in 9th grade. But if you're not, that's okay. You can move to the earlier cluster. They don't take too many 8th graders, but I've had 2 8th graders in the last 2 years make it. So my hit rate has been 100% on that. So take it for whatever it's worth. But UCLA has 3, so you could take 2 of these. You obviously want to apply to, so even as a 9th grader, so here's my reverse thinking strategy, okay? Which is, if there are only 3 clusters that I can choose from as a 9th grader, you can be fairly assured that lots of 9th graders will apply to 2 of these 3. And they are trying to build a holistic class, so they don't want only 9th graders or only 10th graders applying. They will have a quota of how many 9th graders they'll take in, or 10th graders. Maybe applying as a 9th grader to Irvine is a better idea. And obviously you want to stay within the course of the program that you want to apply to. Santa Cruz has 4, so that might be a great one. But clearly Davis and Irvine will stand out for ninth graders, or yeah. So, and then 10th graders, you can see Davis and San Diego both, and even all of them actually. 10th graders, the world really opens up because we're like this kind of a program. This says none, no prerequisites. You try not to apply for these nuns. I mean, these are, unless you really can showcase prerequisites, a lot of people are going to apply to these. Even these kinds, which it just says algebra 2 or integrated math 2, it's going to be pretty high the number of people applying. Same here, lots of people applying, but like high school chemistry, how many 10th graders have taken AP chemistry or chemistry honors? Quite a few. High school biology, ninth grade, all of them have taken this. So ninth and 10th graders all will be applying to this one. So you can see how competitive applications can become very, very quickly. And 11th graders, I've actually reduced the list as well. I took away, so San Diego had 3 good ones. Then
Teacher, in 10th grade, we helpful.
what's that, Amit? Amit, were you talking to me? Okay, he was.
Harpal, we have a few questions pop up relevant to what you discussed. So if I can run that through very quickly with you for a one-line answer. So of course, the common repeated question asked is what is the easiest Cosmos cluster to get into? And I think you alluded towards it.
Yeah, the easiest one to get into is which is sounds the most boring here on the topic head. When you start reading it, you really have to rack your brains to think more about it in details, and has the highest number of prerequisites.
Okay. The next one is 11th grade student has a choice between a paid internship at an engineering company in California. And is that better to pursue or Cosmos?
200% Cosmos. Academia respects academia at the end of the day. People are going to read applications for Harvard or Duke. Those are going to be people in the, I mean, there's demonstrable, tangible data you can get about somebody from a research internship, which they can never get from an internship because it's written by a corporate dude. Academia does not really respect corporate. So let's be blunt about that. Okay.
Would it be acceptable to have a research mentor be a second reference?
Yes, as long as they have an EDU email address.
Okay. The student needs to do biology, physics, and chemistry to apply, or one should be sufficient? Should it be an AP course?
It depends what they're asking. If they're saying just, if they say the word high school level chemistry, they're not being very specific, succinct. But if it's like this case, if you've done AP Chem, that's great. Talk about it. It makes your accolades even higher, saying, make sure you talk about it, why you did AP Chem and why chemistry matters to you. So in fact, you could write about that to your recommendation teacher, and that teacher could add that in that form right here. You could write over here the details. Okay.
Can a UC Scout Intro to Java course count towards computer science prereq?
It might. I mean, the prereqs for computer science, they're very clear. They don't say the words, they just say introduction to computer programming. So if you've done intro courses, as long as not from Coursera or something, but if you've done it from an academic institution, which is like a community college or UC Scout, you say UC Scout, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or BYU, that's perfect.
So I think the next question is the recommendation letter from an engineering class teacher. Would it be helpful? I would say absolutely yes. And
we've got a lot of stuff. So unless
let's get to a essay part of things.
I need to, your stuff is very critical.
Anu
So.
and Harpal, if you